to laud the Supreme Court for having resolved a dispute that had dragged in for 6 years between the two houses of Parliament. This was an excellent piece of work from the Supreme Court, and they deserve a pat on their backs for having resolved this and having clearly stated what should go to the Senate and what should not go to the Senate. It is unfortunate that for 6 years, there was a duel in the courts between this House, the National Assembly, and the Senate on the interpretation of Article 1110, especially sub-Article 3 of the Constitution, which requires the two houses to resolve any question where a bill concerns a county government or county governments, or it does not. From this particular decision, it was most bizarre that the interpretation by the Senate was that all bills have to be taken to the Senate, even bills that have nothing to do, no single provision concerning county governments. And this is what they are trying to do again. We will show with the intended proposed amendments by the Senate that they are actually going on the wrong tangent. This interpretation by the Senate was not only erroneous, but also ignored the existence of Article 109 of the Constitution, which provides that bills that do not concern county governments need not be considered by the Senate, but have to be considered by this House only. Therefore, this judgment is commendable in that it has settled that long dispute of 6 years and has clearly expressly provided what falls under Article 110, sub-Article 3 of the Constitution, and that it's only bills that concern counties that possibly will have questions rising, which questions have to be determined by the two speakers. Article 96 of the Constitution clearly states what the mandate of the Senate is, which is to represent and protect the interests of the counties, and especially in the matters legislation, in the matters parliament. It is the legislative mandate of Senate which is limited to only bills concerning county governments, and not all bills as the Senate has tried to make us believe and was trying to make the courts to believe, which was rejected by the courts. There are obvious bills which must be taken to the Senate, and especially and including money bills. And what we have in mind include division of revenue and county allocation of revenue bills. Those ones go without gainsaying to the Senate, and where a question arises, the two speakers have to resolve. Honorable Speaker, sir, Justice and Legal Affairs Committee has keenly scrutinized the amendments proposed by Senate, and having carefully looked at them, we call for a rejection of those particular proposals. The reason is that the Senate indirectly tries to perpetuate unconstitutional practice and the misconceived arguments which they actually made in court and which arguments were lost. When the drafters of the Constitution actually came up with what we have and which we passed in 2010, they had in mind a bicameral parliament that was to work seamlessly and was to be guided by distinct mandates of each house. This is why it took time to make provisions on what the National Assembly would do and what the Senate would do in turn. We also have the fourth schedule where it is clearly defined which house is supposed to do what, and the functions are clearly demarcated between the national government and the functions of the county governments. Therefore, I wonder why anyone would ignore these very well thought out constitutional provisions, and we had to waste 6 years out there in the courts, battling it out on what should go to the Senate and what should not go to the Senate. And having carefully read the judgment of the Supreme Court, having looked at their paragraph 95, which is in black and white, it now goes unquestioned where the concurrence process should be sought. And having looked at this, having looked at the proposed amendments, we are left with no option but to urge this House to reject those proposed amendments. We oppose this motion and let everything from the Senate fall by the wayside. We will go to a mediation after that, and we will demonstrate to the Senate what exactly the Constitution says, what exactly we painstakingly went through when we were coming up with the report on the Bicameral Relations Act or Bill, which Honorable Chepkonga had actually taken pain to draft and urge it through this House to success. As I conclude, let me take you to what the Senate is proposing. Senate, as regards clause number 6, is actually proposing the following. Delete the entire of clause 6 and substitute therefore the following new clause. Clause 6, 1. Before a bill is read a first time in the House originating the bill, the Speaker of that House shall, pursuant to Article 1103 of the Constitution, invite the Speaker of the other House jointly to resolve the question on whether the bill is a bill concerning counties or a special bill or ordinary bill. What the Senate is proposing is that before any bill is read in this House, first and foremost, the two speakers must burn the midnight oil, must spend time, must also expend national resources in trying to sort out whether the bill concerns counties or not. May it be clear, and it is known to this House, there are bills which have nothing to do with the counties and have nothing to do with the Senate. And therefore, the Senate should not be calling upon us to waste our time, to waste resources, and possibly even energies, debating on whether a bill concerns a county or does not. Therefore, the entire of this proposal is a bad proposal which must be rejected. And had I more time, I would actually go through the entire proposed amendments from the Senate, which we are saying none of them qualifies to be considered by this House. Therefore, with those very many remarks, I beg to second the rejection of the amendments from the Senate and also the rejection of this motion. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, I now propose a question that the Senate amendments to the Houses of Parliament Bicameral Relations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 44 of 2023, be now considered. Yes, Pokose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to support the position taken by the committee on the consideration of the Senate amendments to the House of Parliament Bicameral Relations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 44 of 2023. Honorable Speaker, I also want to make my contributions to the Supreme Court judgment. Honorable Speaker, apart from the determination of the issues of application of Article 110(3) of the Constitution and Article 114 of the Constitution on money bills, the Senate also sought the invalidation of 23 Acts of Parliament which had been enacted by this House as stated by the Honorable Jepkonga. The Acts of Parliament, Honorable Speaker, sought to be invalidated on grounds that they were enacted without the participation of the Senate, included several appropriation acts that had already expended money for provision of public services to the people of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, the Senate also sought to invalidate the National Youth Service Act and the Kenya Coast Guard Act and several statute law miscellaneous amendment acts for several years. Honorable Speaker, I give these examples to just illustrate how far the dispute of the legislative mandate of the Senate had gone to an extent of almost throwing this country to a crisis by seeking invalidation of key acts of parliament that touch on critical sectors of the country. Honorable Speaker, I'm therefore pleased to note that the Supreme Court judgment has averted a definite crisis by upholding the constitutionality of the 21 acts of parliament. Though, Honorable Speaker, this has taken 6 years, and I hope that going by this in future, the court should be able to move fast with speed, because justice delayed is justice denied. The Senate amendments, as supported by the chair of the Justice and Legal Affairs, Honorable Murmukaru, do not align to this guidance of the Supreme Court, considering that those amendments which are being made, where you have to seek the approval, the two speakers have to spend time to determine whether this is a bill concerning counties or not. Already the drafters of the bill will already indicate whether it is concerning counties or not. And therefore, spending time to decide as whether it is concerned the counties or not is a waste of time, and I think that is not the direction that we should be able to take. Honorable Speaker,